The story of Job. In the Bible, we come across several faithful men who praised God during their sufferings and finally were rewarded by God. One such example was Job, who was an ideal model of faithfulness. Here, I am presenting you the story of Job. Once, there lived a man named Job in the land of Uz, who was faithful to God. He had 7 sons and 3 daughters. He was a prayerful man who was cautious not to do anything evil. He was the richest man in the East. He helped the poor and the needy. He was a humble man who never took pride in his riches. He was well known for his devotion towards God. He owned numerous cattle and had many servants. One day, when the heavenly beings had to appear before the Lord, Satan came there. The Lord, who was pleased with Job, said to Satan, "There is no one on the earth like my servant Job, a blameless and upright man who fears God and turns away from evil." The Satan replied, "Job is faithful to you because you have blessed him abundantly and protected him. But if you take away everything from him, he will curse you to your face." In this way, Satan put forth a challenge to the Lord. Therefore, the Lord permitted Satan to test Job's faithfulness, but only on one condition: not to hurt him. Due to this, the entire property of Job was destroyed by Satan in a single day. Lightning struck on his shepherds and sheep, and they died. All the donkeys and camels owned by him were stolen, and his servants were killed. And at last, all his loving children were killed by a fierce storm. On hearing this heartbreaking news from his servants, Job tore off his clothes in anguish. He shaved his head in grief and threw himself on the ground and said, "I was born with nothing, and I will die with nothing. The Lord gave, and now he has taken away. May his name be praised." In spite of everything that had happened, Job did not sin by blaming God. Gladdened by his attitude, the Lord said to Satan, "You prompted me to let you attack him for no reason, but see, he is still faithful as ever." Then the Satan tactfully replied, "If you hurt his body, he will curse you to your face." So the Lord again gave the power to Satan now to hurt Job, but not to kill him. Hence the Satan made sores spread all over the body of Job, right from the crown of his head to the sole of his foot. Unable to withstand this, Job took a piece of broken pottery to scrap his sores and sat among the ashes. Seeing his plight, his wife in anger insisted him to curse God and die. But he rebuked her by saying, "When God sends us something good, we welcome it. How can we complain when he sends us trouble?" In spite of his sufferings, Job said nothing against God. On hearing his affliction, 3 of his friends came to console him. When they saw him from a distance, they did not recognize him, as he was completely disfigured. Seeing his pathetic condition, they tore their clothes in grief and wept for him. Despite the heavy losses incurred by Job, he retained his faith and did not curse the Lord till the end. Finally, the Satan gave up, and the Lord, delighted with Job's faith, restored all the fortunes twice as much as he had before. The Lord blessed the latter days of Job even more than he had blessed his beginning. He also blessed Job with 7 sons and 3 daughters. There were no other women in the whole world as beautiful as Job's daughters. Job lived 140 years after this, long enough to see his grandchildren and great-grandchildren, and then he died at a very great age. Reflection. We will now reflect on the virtues of Job. The first virtue is humbleness. God has the power to raise a man from rags to riches and drop him back from riches to rags within a fraction of a second. So we should not take pride in the wealth or the power which we have now in this world, because everything which we own now is only given to us by the Lord, and He has the right to take it away from us at any time. We should always be conscious of this. In the Bible, Proverbs chapter 16 verse 18 says, "Pride leads to destruction and arrogance to downfall." Pride is the root cause of many other sins which destroys the soul. Hence, we should always humble ourselves and live a righteous life like Job, no matter how affluent we are. That is what God expects from us. The second virtue is charity. If God has blessed us abundantly, we should extend the same support to all the people who are really in need. Such an act will be pleasing to the Lord. As we have seen in this story, the more you give, the more you will receive from the hands of the Lord. The third virtue is faithfulness. We should believe that all the trials which we face in our life will only lead to our glory and not to disaster. It is only the sufferings which we endure in our life make us more powerful and strong. If we are faithful to God, He will never forsake us. We have to believe that the same God who nourished us and protected us for so many years in our life will take care of us in future also. So we should not be anxious about our future. Finally, the virtue of persistence. The most important moral that we learn from this story is, whenever we have a suffering in our life, we should remember that Satan is challenging that we will curse God because of this suffering. But at the same time, God says, "No, my son, my daughter will always be faithful to me irrespective of the troubles he is facing." So, like Job, we should never allow Satan to win the challenge. We should be patient and praise God. So, to conclude, we should remember that suffering is only a test for our faithfulness, and we should succeed in that test by all means. Thank you for watching this video. May God bless you. To get new video updates, please subscribe to this channel and click the bell icon.